Kogan Mobile. Get started for just $4.90 for 30 days. koganmobile.com.au/footy.
Dwayne's World with Dwayne Russell.
Hello and welcome to the program. Great to have your company for Dwayne's World for Midday Madness. You call, you get on. That's the Midday Madness promise. Fantastic to have your company. Love having your calls. It's Talkback Radio, so jump on the open line, which is brought to us by Werribee Kia. That number 1300 736 736. If you haven't joined us before, 2 hours of Midday Madness, your calls. And if you call, we will get you on, whatever moves you enough to pick up your phone and dial that number. 1300 736 736, the open line brought to us by Werribee Kia. The My 22 Stonic, the year 22, badge 22 Stonic is now in stock at Werribee Kia. So you can check out their new car range and their used car range and give them a call. Hopefully be able to drive down there and take a test drive in one in the not too distant future. So give them a call at Werribee Kia and tell them we sent you. David, Janan, Aid, Jim, they're all down there awaiting your phone call. And I'm waiting yours, 1300 736 736. Send through a text or two as well if you'd like to text on the Tempur text machine, TEMPUR, mattresses and pillows like no other. You can check out the Tempur range online. I'll read out a heap of your text during the course of the afternoon. We just heard in the news that Nathan Jones has officially announced he has retired. That's probably the big news of the morning. The big news of the hour is probably going to be what Chris Davies, Port Adelaide's head of football, is saying right now at a Port Adelaide press conference. So Port Adelaide's head of football, Chris Davies, having a press conference right now to answer all the questions. Why the poor start? Why did they get out-hunted? Why were they soft over the ball? Why no fight back? Why no libertag? Why they were outnumbered at stoppage so often? Why no clamp on Jack McRae? Why did they get stage fright? All that kind of stuff. Chris Davies answering those questions now. Was there a pre-game rev-up? Did they go out there expecting to win? Did they play a little bit of self-preservation football in the first quarter, thinking they were heading to a grand final in a couple of weeks' time? So, looking forward to hearing what Chris Davies has to say at that press conference, and we'll play you a heap of it very, very shortly, the answers to whatever questions he gets asked at that press conference. Neil Baum's going to join us, so plenty to talk about with Barmy. Obviously, the list situation at the Tigers, the Callum Coleman-Jones latest, the Mabior Chol latest, and the latest is who's going to be captain of the Tigers. So have you got a thought on that? Who's the Tigers' next captain? Who's your next captain at your club? Because there might be a few clubs thinking of changing captains. The Giants, I think they should go with Toby Green myself. They obviously, I think they'll move the captaincy from Steve Cornelio. I think they'll move it to somebody else. I'd actually be giving it to Toby Green, to be honest. Who's the next captain for the Cats after Joel Selwood, who's got a year left, obviously, and I think Joel captains until the end. So I would leave the captaincy with Joel Selwood right now for 2022. But who captains the Cats after Joel Selwood, if you've got a thought on that? Should Carlton change? Should Patrick Cripps and Sam Doherty hand it over to Sam Walsh? Who's the next captain of the Gold Coast after David Swallow and Jared Witts? Obviously have been their captain for a long time. Is there any leader there? Scott Pendlebury at Collingwood, should he hand it over? Your thoughts on all of that? 1300 736 736 is the number if you've got a thought on Richmond's next captain and your next captain. And a little question within that question, can it be a defender? Can Nick Vlauston captain Richmond? Can Dylan Grimes, can it be a key defender? Tom Jonas is Port Adelaide's captain right now. Does it work having a key defender, or is it a rarity? Do you need a playmaker to be your captain these days? And are you a fan of dual captains if you're a Tiger out there? Does dual captains actually mean you don't have a captain? To some it does. And I like the single captain idea myself. So your calls, your texts, keep them coming through. 0433 98 11 16 on the Tempur text machine if you've got a suggestion on the text. 0433 98 11 16. But it's Talkback Radio. I'd rather have a chat to you. So let's go to your calls. Chris in Mentone. Damien, I know you're on the line. James in Bentley, you want to talk next captain for the Cats as well. James, we might start with you.
Yeah, mate. How you going?
Yeah, good, thanks.
That's the way. Massive Cats fan. Obviously really disappointed with the results over the last few weeks with our output finals. But I think the best captain for us moving forward after Joel Sell, we'll definitely go with Joel again in 2022. But I think Tom Stewart is probably structurally our most important player. He's All-Australian. He's a defender. He sets the tone down down back. I think he'd be the way to go into the future.
Yeah, and that's why I asked the question a little bit as well as to whether a key defender can be captain. Dylan Grimes has to be a contender at the Tigers. I think they'll give it to Jack Graham myself, but we'll have a chat to Barmy a little bit later on. But Tom Stewart seems like the automatic choice. You wouldn't give it to Patrick Dangerfield for a year or two? Carlton changed it around. Stephen Kernahan, Craig Bradley got it towards the end of his career because he deserved to have that mantle for a while.
Yeah, I think Paddy's definitely in the running and probably needs to be considered. But I mean, look, all great teams start in defence. Tommy is a leader. He's perfected his craft over the last few years, and he's got a great story. I think he's well respected and liked down at the club. All things that Danger is as well, obviously. But I just think it might be time for a defender to get the job down there.
Yeah, Tom Stewart, your nomination. Love it. 1300 736 736. Sergio in Brisbane, you got a thought on the captaincy at Collingwood?
Yeah, g'day Dwayne, how are you? I'd leave it with Scott Canterbury for another year, and you got up and comers like Darcy Moore, Adams, and there's probably my check is another roughie.
Okay.
My only query with the captaincy, and I believe just having the one captain, is does that player have to be a durable type of player like Scott was, where he's virtually played almost every game? Do you need your on-field leader to play most of the season, which would throw up question marks on some of the guys like Darcy Moore and Adams, unless they got their bodies right. Your thoughts on that, mate?
Yeah, look, there's a few suggestions coming through Darcy Moore. I think Darcy Moore would make a good captain, but I'm not sure he wants to be. Does he want to be captain? Is that something that he would like to do? Sometimes guys get better with the captaincy added to them. Sometimes it's not their cup of tea. So I don't know Darcy Moore that well, and quite a few are coming through. Do you think that he'd be the kind of guy who would like it?
Yeah, I think he's a natural leader, but my point is, he doesn't stay on the park long enough. He's had a history of injuries, so that would be the only question mark I would have on any of that. Sorry, on him and probably Taylor Adams. My check would be a good guy, but and he's very durable. So I don't know, but I would have thought if you're going to have a captain, he's got to be on the ground more often than not. Anyway,
yeah, regularly.
Quite
a few coming. Yep. Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. They need to be durable and be out there for the majority of the year. Quite a few coming through saying that there have been some great key defenders as captains. We know Danny Frawley's been a great. Tom Harley, Nick Maxwell, Paul Roos, Shannon Hearn, Easton Wood. Thanks for those nominations from one particular texter with no name attached. Sel would be lucky to get a game next year. Keep your texts coming through. No dual captains, so a few saying certainly not. And go back to the number 17 for Richmond captain. I'd like to see Darcy Moore as the next captain of the Pies. Jack Graham captain for the Tigers. Jordan Ridley, Essendon captain. Gunn, Young, Cleanskin as well. Mark in Southbank, Crisp to take over at the Pies. Thanks for that. Wiedering a better captain choice for the Blues than Walsh. Taylor Adams for the next captain at Collingwood. Also Dacos. Thanks for that nomination as well. Damien in Strathmore, you got a thought on the Tigers' next captain, given the news? For those that haven't heard, Trent Cotchin will be stepping down as Richmond captain.
Yes, Dwayne. Beautiful day here in Melbourne, but I'd love to see Richmond give Shane Edwards the captaincy. I think he's an absolute legend. His leadership in the last few years have been outstanding. His job he did in round 4, 2019 against Power, when we had all our best players out, he was fantastic that day. And I think just everything he's done for the club, I think it'll be a great honour for him to lead the club for maybe 1 year, maybe 2, and then give it to Jack Graham after that.
Yeah, he has been an icon, Shane Edwards, and you're right, it needs to be considered because he's so reliable. He never lets you down, plays most weeks, so a really good nomination Damien. Chris in Mentone, I know you're on the line, want to talk goal kicking. I'll come to you. James in Caulfield on the Geelong captaincy, though, as we take some captaincy calls as well. Welcome to you, James.
Hey, welcome, Dwayne. Yeah, I don't know. Do you consider with the Geelong captain age? I mean, Tom Stewart's 28. He'd be awesome, but you'd only get him for a couple of years. So just thinking maybe for youth, do you go maybe Jack Henry? He's 23, can probably take on the next wave of kids coming through as well.
Yeah, another defender as well. I don't mind an older guy being named captain, I've got to say. James, I know we're talking about guys that might not hold it for a while, but if you deserve to have it, if you've been a great leader of the club, I think it does sit well with some guys late in their career. It's almost like a reward. We know you've been leading this club as not a captain for a while, but we're going to reward you with the captaincy for a couple of years. So, yeah, that's why I think Tom Stewart's probably a good nomination, because he probably is at that stage where the reward, he would deserve it. So thanks for your call. Tom in Northcote, you got a thought of Carlton. Welcome to you, Tom.
Yeah, how are you, Dwayne, mate? I love Jacob Wiedering, mate. I reckon Wieders would be the best captain for us. The general in defence for us. I'd love Walsh too, maybe in the next 3-4 years, but because you don't want the pressure too much on the kid, you know.
Yeah.
It could work against him sometimes, and it'll be good, I reckon, if it gets off. If the captaincy gets taken off Cripps and Dockers, they could have a good year, blowout year, which would be good for us, I reckon. There'll be less pressure on them and, you know, less people hounding them in the press, you know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, look, it might take some pressure off Cripps. Sam Doherty obviously has a health battle, and we need to find out where he's at with the health battle before we, talk too deeply about whether he should or shouldn't give the captaincy away or hand it over. But, hopefully he'll be fine, and hopefully Cripps will be wanting to retain the captaincy anyway. But the next captain is interesting, given that Cripps is going to be around for a long, long time. The handover of Trent Cotchin, he's still going to play, Trent Cotchin, and the handover idea is something that lots of clubs tend to embrace these days. Let your old captain just play. And Travis Boak's done that at Port Adelaide. He's just been able to play, and it's worked really well. Chris in Mentone before Peter in Cheltenham. Welcome to you, Chris.
Hi, Dwayne. How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I've just had a bugbear for quite a while with kicking for goal unrealistically. Taking a mark outside the 50-metre line, guys will stand there, they take 30 seconds, they look around, eyes are going everywhere, they're never going to kick the goal. The umpire surely can see that. Then they kick it to somebody inside the 50-metre line, they take a mark, and then they take another 30 seconds. Now, everywhere else on the field, you're lucky to get 5 seconds, even kicking in from fullback nowadays. So I don't get why that should, to me, if it's kicked in unrealistically and the guy takes a mark, it should be play on. What's your thoughts on that?
So the mark doesn't get paid unless an opposition player takes the mark, I presume, Chris?
Well, yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, I hadn't even thought of that, to be honest with you. But, because it's an unrealistic thing. And we know they're trying to keep the game quick. And yet there's 30 seconds, and then there's another 30 seconds. And then if a guy decides to kick across goal, there's another 30 seconds. So
Chris,
that first one, especially the unrealistic one, you know.
I'd stop the clock, and I wouldn't start the clock again until the player starts his walk-in. So, that's what I'd be doing. Now, to guard against the Ben Brown walk-in, where you waste 15 seconds while you're walking in because you're walking in off the 50-pace walk-in, maybe you could start the clock a bit like basketball once the ball hits the foot or once you handball it. So once you play on, if you move sideways and the umpire calls play on, that's when the clock starts. So I'd rather that. I'd rather the clock stopped, because I'm with you on the time wasting. I just reckon it would be better if the clock simply stopped, and once the player goes again, that's when the clock restarts. So that whole 15, 20-second wait where, he wipes the ball on his jumper and fiddles around with it in his hands and makes sure his boot's on correctly. We don't need the clock ticking during that time, I don't think. Peter in Cheltenham, welcome to you, Peter.
Yeah, good day, Dwayne. How's it going?
Yeah, good.
Look, the captaincy, being a Richmond man, I'm Jackie Graham, mate. He's going to be, 24 start of the season, right age.
Yep.
Give it to him. Daniel Talia, mate. Geez, mate. I've been hearing him. I don't want him coming over, because we've got a young defender there who finally got a game under his belt. His name's Ben Miller. I'm a huge fan of him.
Okay.
He's similar age to Noah Bolter. he can learn. He's got enough experienced defenders around him where he can learn as he's playing game, just like Noel Bolter did when he first came in. He's 29, going on to 30 this tail. He's had injuries. We don't need him, mate. I hope we don't get him. And also Callum Coleman-Jones, mate. I hope he stays along with Child. We've got to at least keep one of them. I'm hearing North Melbourne's offering 5 years for $4 to $4.50 a season or something. So I hope they can change his mind, Dwayne. But I want Richmond to give Ben Miller a go, mate. He's a perfect replacement for David Ashby.
I'll ask Barmy. So I'll ask Barmy all of that about Callum Coleman-Jones. I've got Ben Miller now on the list. I mean, Callum Coleman-Jones, it has been reported, I think, by a number of people. Sam Edmund was talking about it yesterday. I think Fox Sports' Tom Morris also reporting 5-year deal at between $400 and $450 a year at North Melbourne. It's pretty hard to knock back a deal like that when you've played as little football as Callum Coleman-Jones. Straight back to your calls and your text. Port Adelaide's head of football, Chris Davies, at a press conference now explaining what went wrong for Port Adelaide against the Dogs. We'll bring you some big slices of that very shortly. Neil Baum to join us later in the program, so looking forward to having a chat to Barmy about all things Mabior Chol. Callum Coleman-Jones, will they keep him? The Tigers, is it 4 years? Is it 5 years that he's being offered elsewhere? Is it 400 or 450,000? Some stories floating around. We'll keep an eye on the Callum Coleman-Jones story. Depends on which person's telling it to you as to how many years it is and what the number is. A few on the text saying, Sammy Edmonds saying it's 4 years. 4 years. I have heard quite a few say 4 years, but 5 years maybe on the Gold Coast. But we are all hearing that North Melbourne might be the front runner right now. Frankie White-Turner, welcome to you, Frank.
G'day, Dwayne. Yeah, look, I've been trying to really thinking about the Carlton situation at the moment with their coach, look for a coach. I think the best thing is that they definitely should sign Clarkson up for 2 years, take over in 2 years. Why don't they just get, as an interim coach, get David Parkin to come out of retirement and do a year? I mean, it wouldn't hurt. And also Clarkson could have some input into the selection of players coming into the team. I think that could work, and I think you've got the best of both worlds there. You've got a die-hard Carlton coach there, and you've got Clarkson as well. So they really should grab Clarkson while they can.
Yeah, Frank, we'll agree to disagree. No, we'll agree to disagree on that. I don't think you can have an interim coach waiting for Clarko to come. I don't think that would work. So appointing someone for the short term is not what I would do. And I don't think David Parkin's a good option for you either. He hasn't been at the coalface for quite a while now. And whilst some coaching methods would not have changed and would still work, a lot have changed. I think game plans have changed a lot. And you would need someone who's been at the coalface in recent years to know exactly what all the modern players are doing, how different coaches are stopping modern players in the game. Now, I'm not saying David Parkin doesn't watch a lot of footy. I'm sure he does. But you would need someone who is a lot more abreast of what's going on in the modern game, I think, than David Parkin right now. You could surround him with some good assistants if you wanted to. Maybe you could do that, but I don't think that's a viable option for Carlton. I don't think that's the right way to go. A couple here coming through on the text. Carlton have Clarkson. Yep, that text comes through at about 12:30 every day. So I appreciate you sending it again. Just reminding us that Clarko will be announced as Carlton coach. And I think one person telling us it would be October 1. Michael in Blackburn, welcome to you, Michael.
Hey, Pipe, how you going?
Yeah, good.
That's the way. Hey, I've just got a little Brownlow rant that I need to get off my chest. So if you've got a minute, let me fire away if that's all right. You there?
Yeah, I'm waiting for it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I want to know, why is it still called the best and fairest? So, there's no other sport in the world that has that fairest component to the best player or the MVP. And people might say it's a tradition or a quirk of the game, but I think it just shows how outdated we are. And, when the Brownlow medal was first around, there were no cameras and there were suspensions, were reserved for the most malicious of acts. Acts that would probably be worthy of 6 games in the modern game. So, the fairest component made sense then, but players now get suspended for being a split second late, perhaps a little bit clumsy, but not necessarily for a malicious act. And the AFL, I feel is, a bit scared to change it, and perhaps for hurting players like Grant and McKernan who were disqualified. But rules change, and the game isn't always fair, and it's not fair on key forwards anymore. Gone are the days of kicking 10 or more, and the rules have changed, and so has the game. So I think getting suspended is enough of a punishment because you miss the chance for more votes. And people might argue that if you punch someone like Gaff did to Brayshaw a few years back, you might not be worthy. But hell, if you miss 8 games, I think well played to you if you can get enough votes to win the Brownlow. And finally, let's be honest, it's not the best and fairest. I've got this written down, so just give me a sec. I think they should, if they're going to be honest with themselves, they have to call it the best in any player who managed to not gain an infringement worthy of a 1-week suspension throughout the duration of the home and away season. Because Razor Ray doesn't sit in the umpire's room after the game and say, gee, Bashar Hooley played fairly today. I'll give him 3 votes for his fairness of the contest. Brian, that's my point. And finally, I made the cheeky 20 and took at the start of the year.
Now, the umpires still vote regardless of who's been reported or who hasn't been reported. That does happen. That's why you have players with the most amount of votes getting through and winning it and then not being eligible, obviously. I think it's one of the great traditions. But, changing tradition, it's pretty big when you change a tradition in AFL. And you have to be, I think, wary of what traditions you change. So, going with a 6-6-6 setup at centre bounce, for example. So that's a change. But it's a change to go back a little bit, to give us the game that we once loved and, enjoyed a positional game for a long, long time. So they're the kind of changes I don't mind. When you change things like the hands in the back and, pushing the back shouldn't be allowed. So I get rule changes like that. But when it comes to big traditions, I'm a bit reluctant to change it. But let's open it up on the text, and we might open up a Twitter poll as well. Should they take the fairest out of the best and fairest for the Brownlow? So I'll put a Twitter poll up, and we'll get the voting, and we'll see what the public think on that. So if you want to send through a text right now or jump on the Twitter poll, we'll have it up within 5 minutes. But 0433 98 11 16 if you think they should take the fairest out of the best and fairest for the Brownlow. But I like it. I'd be keeping it. Chris in Hillcrest. Welcome to you, Chris.
Hi, Dwayne. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. You wanted to talk Carlton captaincy?
Yeah. I just wanted to suggest Jack Silvani as a left field option for the captaincy. I just think we've come to view him as that heart and soul player for the Blues, and that he's got sets good standards just around having a crack all the time. What did you think about that? So
are you taking it off Doherty and Cripps, or is this only if they hand it over?
Only if they hand it over. I don't think there's an urgency to strip them of the captaincy, but because he's only 23, going on 24 this December. That's Silvani, so there's time for him.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I'd be looking more at Sam Walsh myself, but I know what you're saying about heart and soul, and Jack Silvani gives his heart and soul every week, and he's about to be rewarded with a new contract. He's become a real solid part of the foundation of the rebuild, just like Ed Curnow has in a way, because he's going to give everything every week, and you love those players, and I think that's why most Carlton people have absolutely fallen in love with Jack Silvani like they fell in love with Ed Curnow, because you're always going to get his absolute 100%. Take a break. Mick in Clyde North, Peter in Primby, 1300 736 736 if you want to jump on the line. Who's your next captain? Who is Richmond's next captain? Neil Balme to join us later in the program. And if you have a thought on fairest and best, send through your text 0433 98 11 16. I wouldn't be changing it, but send through your text if you think it should. Straight back to your calls and your texts. Dwayne, I agree. Keep the fairest component. George from Blackie South. Thanks for that, George. But another one, and quite a few coming to support our caller. AFL stick to some ridiculous and stupid traditions for the sake of it, even when it makes no sense. Fairest component of the Brownlow is one of those stupid traditions. That's from AG. Yes, get rid of the fairest. It should be just the best. I agree with the Brownlow change. 30 years ago, we didn't have cameras suspending people and hits 30 years ago were deemed as nothing to see, whereas they are now suspended. That's from Adam. So the poll is going to be up, and there might be an overwhelming response in favour of our caller's call to take the fairest component out. Mick in Clyde North on the Tigers captaincy. Welcome to you, Mick.
Morning, Dwight. Or afternoon, or just after lunch.
That's right.
Yeah, I'd go for Dylan Grimes, and if everyone thinks he's a little bit too old at Tigerland, I'd go for Nick Flosson. Nick Flosson was the Vic Metro captain. The other thing I've got to say is, on the Brownlow, why do we even have the Brownlow? Why not just say that send in your best three mids from all the clubs and we'll just have a party? Because the Brownlow is non-existent for backmen, ruckmen, forwards or anyone else that plays the game. Why can't we have three awards? One for the midfield, one for the back line, and one for the forwards. I know there's a Coleman medal, but that's only for a full field who kicks goals. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, why would you have a thing like to say this is our best footballer of the game?
Yeah.
When clearly you have guys in the back line that have 10 times better years than some midfielder, and yet they don't get a vote. They just don't get a vote. Yeah. And the last thing I've got...
Is it easier to play in the back line, Mick, than be a playmaker?
There's a lot of them. There's guys like Lever, guys like Bashahuli, guys...
Yeah.
All these halfback
But do a lot of them now don't play? A lot of them now don't play on a man, do they, Mick?
Well, you take guys like Dylan Grimes, mate. He has not one man; he has three.
Yeah,
he plays on everyone in the back.
I'm not saying every backman doesn't. I'm just saying, is it easier to play as a loose back than it is as a key forward trying to be a playmaker with a bloke trying to stop you, with a heap of guys flooding back on you and try and kick goals at the same time? So maybe the umpires get it right.
Midfielders don't have anyone on them. No one tags anyone these days. The last thing I've got to say is the one rule that came in with Steve Hocking that has to get rid of is that standing on the man rule. That's the most useless rule known to man. It does nothing for the game. It creates so many problems for guys that are kicking for goal too. They try to get that extra distance by arcing out.
Hey, Mick, that's their fault. That's their stupid fault. They're getting an extra metre and they don't know how to use it. You can't blame Steve Hocking for the fact that blokes don't know how to run around the guy on the mark and kick on the run. That's their own fault for not practicing it. You can argue whether the stand rule's stupid or not, that's fine. But don't say it's stupid just because a bloke kicking a goal from 50 misses a lot because he's not used to having an extra metre to be able to crib. Thanks for your call, Mick. I thought you were on a roll for a while. Peter in Primby, welcome to you, Peter.
Yeah, right, how are you?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, look, I'd like to see Toby Green as the captain of GWS. I think Steve Canelao is just out of sorts. His last game sort of showed that he didn't seem to be in the contest. And I'd like Steve Canelao to get himself right. And I think the captaincy probably doesn't sit well with him at the present time. So, yeah, I'd just like to see Toby Green. I think he's proved himself this year that, apart from his indiscretions, but I think he's proved himself this year as being a person and a player that can actually lead the club.
Yeah, he's had a great year, apart from that one horrible indiscretion. Great to have you company for Midday Madness. Straight back to your calls and your texts. Later in the program, Neil Baum to join us. We'll play a little bit of Port Adelaide's head of football, Chris Davies, explaining what went wrong in their prelim loss to the Dogs. On the day, Nathan Jones announced he is officially retiring. So it's career over for the 300-game Demon superstar. A couple of texts. I like the David Parkin idea. David Parkin to come back as coach for a year. It'll at least be tough on the players and tell them what's what. Thanks for that. Keep him until Alistair Clarkson wants to come. Keep the fairest. Can't have someone winning after being suspended. That's why you can still win it with fines. Definitely do not take the fairest out. Stop messing with bloody tradition. That's from Robin. I like the stand rule as it takes a man out of the defensive structure and facilitates more fluid ball movement. Trav in Perth. Trav, I like it too. I think if you fake to handball, Jared Healy's been on this one all year. If you fake to handball, that's play on. So any sort of jitter, any movement in the direction of a play on. So let's not have the guy fake to handball to try and lure 50. I don't like that either. But the stand rule has opened the game up. The problem for the stand rule is that for a lot of people, for maybe a minority of people, if someone else other than Steve Hocking had brought it in, it would have been thought as a great rule. But there's a lot of people that have been anti-Steve Hocking from the moment he got in there. I like 6 and 6-6. I like it. I think it's been a great addition to the game, 6-6-6. And I like the stand rule as well. Now, I'm not saying it shouldn't be tinkered with a little, but it has opened the game up. Another here on that, the stand rule has been awesome. It's achieved in one fell swoop what the AFL has been trying to achieve for years. Open up the game, create run and flow. I love it. So thanks for that as well. Hi, Dwayne. Actually, 2 indiscretions in 1 year for Toby. If Toby Green is the Giants' first choice, they have a problem. Regards, Guy. And quite a few also saying get rid of the fairest. And Dwayne Bailey Smith, the next captain for the Dogs, but needs to wait 5 years. All hail the Bont until then. Jason in Hastings, welcome to you, Jason.
Yeah, g'day there. I just had a couple of things. Firstly, your thoughts on Quinton Narkle coming back to Richmond. There's been some strong talk about him coming back. They're trying to get him back over to Richmond. Do you think that'll happen, and what will he bring to our midfield?
All right, let me write that down on the list for Neil Baum, Quinton Narkle. Well, the Cats are going to have to do some trading, you would think. So, and there's guys that haven't been getting a game that if Chris Scott's staying long term, that might think they won't get a game under Chris Scott. So, but maybe they will be given an indicator that, hey, there's going to be 4 or 5 guys out and we are going to go young. Maybe that's going to be a directive. We haven't heard from Steve Hocking. We haven't heard from the Cats or Chris Scott. Maybe they'll do a press conference like Port Adelaide is doing today, explain what went wrong and tell us what their future looks like and what they're planning to do. So we'll all get some clarity on that. But if not, I think he would be a good addition for Richmond's midfield.
Okay. And with the captaincy too, I'm a strong believer of Liam Baker. I see a lot of Trent Cotcham in him, the way he attacks the ball and how fierce he is in the contest. I think he could be a big possibility for taking the captaincy. But apart from that, like Dusty's got the experience, don't get me wrong. But Graham is another shot as well.
Nice call. I appreciate it. And a few on the text have suggested multiple captains for the Tigers as well. Dwayne, one here from Jeff. I think we might go with co-captains of the Tigers. Dusty as the leader on the field, Dylan Grimes. So Dustin isn't forced to do the media. So they give Dustin Martin and Dylan Grimes the co-captaincy, and Dylan Grimes does all the media for Dusty. Big Nank for the Tigers skipper, Dave in Broken Hill. So interesting suggestion as well. Tom in Greensboro, welcome to you, Tom.
Oh, hi, Dwayne. Look, I don't think we need to worry about Steve Hocking being disliked by anyone else. He's a Geelong man now, so, let him hate him. What I am curious about, though, is there's a lot of different rumours going around about what's happening with the Geelong coaching staff with, talk that Chris Scott's on the way out to Carlton, that there's unrest with a couple of favourite sons in Enright and Scarlett, and they, want to walk out on Chris Scott. There's people saying that it's Steve Hocking who's already telling people to, pack their bags. But it's a little bit confusing. My reading between the lines, I'm sort of thinking, that they're resetting with Chris Scott, and rightfully so. He's been an amazing coach, and they're going to try to surround him with some new people to, get some new tactics in place. I'd be interested to know from Neil Baum what he thinks Chris Scott needs around him, considering he worked and supported Chris Scott early on in his career. Do we need someone who's highly tactical? Do we need someone who can take the pressure off him? I don't know. I'm just curious on your thoughts on all of that.
Well, is he coach beyond next year, Tom? That's the thing that I'm intrigued about. Is he going to be the long-term guy? I think Geelong need to sort that out. I think they all need to sort that out. I mean, this might sound ridiculous, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head in reaction to your question. We are hearing that Matthew Scarlett might be leaving. We are hearing that Corey Enright might be leaving. Should the Cats come up with a succession plan? Should the Cats try and work out, is Matthew Scarlett or Corey Enright their next coach? Should that be a succession plan announced so Chris Scott can start to hand over the reins this year to Matty Scarlett or Corey Enright if he's leaving?
I think if he's going to I can't see Chris Scott leaving. I think he has been really firm on the fact that he's there for the future and he's keen to see a lot of these young players come through. I think he's a terrific coach and I'd love to see him stay long term. And I think your mate Steve Hocking needs to sign
lock
him up
in.
And lock him in. So
yeah, that's what I need to know. Tom, I think
yeah.
you're 100% right. We need to know, is Chris Scott the long-term guy? And then the players can work out, okay, well, Chris Scott's here for another 3 years. So am I going to get a game under Chris Scott or not? Do I leave or don't I? I think they need to work that out first. Is Chris Scott going to go? Is he, a contender to be enticed to Carlton? Is Brian Cook leaving? There's a lot of things to sort out at the Cattery, I think, in the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, as we head into that trade period. And, the succession plan might be a way out, wacky kind of idea, but the thought of losing Corey Enright and Matt Scarlett is something that I don't necessarily like the idea of. So, can you keep those guys and why are they leaving is the other issue. We need that explained if they're both on the way out. So let's take a break. Tom, I appreciate your call. You've opened up a few questions there. If you've got a thought on all of that, jump on the open line for Werribee Kia. Gersel, welcome to you. Thanks for holding.
Yeah, g'day, Dwayne. Yeah, I'm just ringing up about the standing on the mark, how the umpires aren't quick in calling play on. And I don't really like the rule because Saturday night it went against Treloar because the player sucked the umpire in that he's going to handball and suck Treloar in as well. Well, Treloar went because it's play on. Umpire hasn't called play on. And he got a 50 against him.
Yeah, so we fixed that. If you fake to go, you've gone. We fixed that.
I know, but...
we should change that. Would you be happy with that?
Well, you know what umpires are like, mate. They don't always... You see it happen all the time. And they don't call play on by the time
but they don't call play on because the player hasn't taken a step. So the current rule is you have to take a step. So if they changed it, so as soon as you fake to go, as soon as you move to move, then whether it's by foot or by hand, it's play on. Would you be okay with it then?
Well, maybe we should give it a go and see how it goes. But a lot of players do it, and there's a lot of 50s given away. And I hope it's not like that in Saturday week because a lot of players do it to draw the 50-metre free kick.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Gersel. I don't like that part of it either. Players using it to suck someone in. So, when you bring anything in, it has increased the flow of the game. There's been more transition from defence to forward 50 this season than ever before. Well, not ever before, but for a long time. So it has worked. Spot on with the stand rule. It opens up a lot, and those who don't like it don't like hocking. Thanks for that as well. And one here, stand rule is the worst ever. Umpires don't call play on quick enough, and players are given too long to move it on. That's from Bruno. But you got to reward the player that's gone and got the ball. You got to reward in this game. You can't make it all in favour of the defenders. So if you've been good enough to get the ball, you have to have some advantage, which is why we have a prior opportunity rule. But let's change the stand rule. So if you fake to go, you've gone. Great to have your company for Dwayne's World. Straight back to your calls and your texts for more Midday Madness we've been talking about. And one here on the text, who do you think will be the Tigers' next captain? Have you got any idea? Great to have your company as well. We've been talking about it for the opening hour. Who is Richmond's next captain? Who is your club's next captain? Keep your texts and calls coming. Been quite a bit on the stand rule in the last 5 or 10 minutes, so keep your thoughts on the stand rule coming. One here, stand rule and protected area are the two worst rules. Get rid of both of them, but they've opened the game up. I mean, the protected area rule, now 50-metre penalty might be a big penalty to pay, but you can't stop flow. I mean, if stopping flow is what we want, so less flow in a game, a stop-start game, the protected area, I think, has been a good idea. I mean, you can't get into his protected area, and it allows the ball getter, the ball winner, to have a bit of freedom to go. And the stand rule's been the same. So, do you want to go back to congestion and less flow? But again, there's a few people that don't like Steve Hocking, so I can understand, people not liking it because it's something that he brought in. And there's some things that Steve Hocking's brought in that I don't like. I don't like the nominating the ruck rule either, to be honest. That's one that I would get rid of. But your thoughts on that? And we've got a poll up as well. Should the fairest element of the Brownlow medal be removed? That's on the SEN Twitter poll. Should it be removed, the fairest element, yes or no? Your thoughts on that? Simon in Oakley South wants to talk captains and North Melbourne. What can you hear, Simon, as we head back to your calls? Neil Baum to join us after 2. And Chris Grant, who is going to hand over the Premiership Cup if the Dogs win the Premiership, also to join us after 2. Simon, what can you?
G'day, Dwayne. Thanks for taking my call. I love the show. Before we get to the North Melbourne captain, I think the fairest component of the best and fairest should stay. I think it's unique. I think it sets a standard. There's that. But having said that, I'll put more stock in the whoever wins the coaches' votes at the end of the year, because the coaches know what tasks they've set their players to do. I like the idea of a captain relinquishing the captaincy before they retire. I think Jack Zeebel's done a great job at North and done it from down back, as did David Dench as a backman as well. I think the next captain of North should be Jai Simpkin. I think it'd be, well, as an aside, I think it would be great to see. I think it would be North's first Indigenous captain as well. I don't like the idea of co-captains. I love the stand rule and the protected area. I think what a lot of people don't get is, like, myself, I don't understand the protected area rule very well. So it gets frustrating when you see a 50-metre penalty happen. Yeah. But it opens up the game. It increases flow and it works. So I think that's all I had to say.
No, and your Dogs had a bit to say as well, Simon. I appreciate everything you've had to say. Made some good points, so I really appreciate you holding on the line across the news. The protected area is fairly simple. I mean, if you're running with a guy, so if the guy with the ball has a teammate run past within 10 metres, then you're allowed to run past with him if you're manning up that guy. But if you're not running past with a man, you can't get inside that protected area because it stops the guy with the ball from playing on. So I think the players have got used to it. I've always said from day one, 50-metre penalty is too big a penalty, that we should have a 25-metre penalty for it, and I'm still of that belief. But opening up the game with that rule has been a good thing. Max in Williams Landing, what can you hear, Max?
Dwayne, just a quick question regarding Carlton's pick 6. Now, if we don't get Sherrod, could we possibly take it to the draft? And also, how good is this year's draft when you compare it to something like last year's or the year before?
Max asked Stephen Wells that question last week. It's impossible to know because a lot of the kids from Victoria have hardly played any footy. Some of these kids have played 7 games in 2 years. So you're picking from a really, there's just not a body of work that we normally get. Now, they've played in the Sample, they've played in the Waffle, so some of the other states have had plenty of football. There might be more players picked from those areas. But it's going to be a bit of a lottery for the kids in Victoria, Max.
Right. No, because I actually thought maybe getting a ready-made player like Chera would have been a perfect player, like that age bracket of 21, 22, because you're not really sure, like you're saying, you can't be sure what you're really going to get from this year's draft.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I think that a lot of clubs might actually take that approach. So if you're not sure what you're going to get with a pick 6, then maybe you use it on a player who's got 2 or 3 years at least as a body of work and you are sure what you're going to get. But you don't want to pay overs for those guys in your salary cap, but I think there might be more of those picks used in the 40s and 50s to grab a heap of guys, because you might actually get some gold in the 40s and 50s amongst some of the 18, 19-year-olds who haven't played a lot of footy but have actually advanced a lot on their under-16 year. So they might not have been looked at as a top 10 pick, top 20 pick in their under-16 year, but they've actually developed, they've grown, and they might be ripe for the picking right now. It is going to be a very, very interesting draft and trade period, Max. Rob in Rowville, what can you hear, Rob?
Hey, mate, how you going?
Good.
This might be a bit of a left field one for Collingwood, but I'd love to see Craven Carey play Braden Maynard through the middle next year and then groom him as our next skipper. when Pendles retires. I think Maynard wears his heart on his sleeve. He's passionate about the club, gives 200% a game, and I think he could be a great leader for us going forward.
So are you happy with the direction you're now going, Rob, besides the boardroom situation? Are Collingwood supporters in general pretty happy right now?
I think we're happy with the new coaching restuffs we've got and the guys have got in. But I think there's a few positional changes that could happen next season, and I think Maynard is a guy who they could put in the middle, with Taylor Adams and the Goey, three big bodies. And I think Maynard, could be a future leader of the club.
Yeah, I like the call. Rob, I think Maynard's a great player, contributes, gives his heart and soul. He argued with the umpire once this year that went a bit over the top, but apart from that, he's had a pretty good year. So I like the call. A couple of you on the text saying, I don't like it when the player feigns to hand pass and the player on the mark moves. We talked about that in the opening hour. So that's the thing that started all this. We need to change that part of it. So if you feign to handball, that's play on. If you move your upper body to go, then that's play on. It can't just be a step to go. There's been quite a few on the text saying they hate the stand rule. Quite a few coming through that they like it. Quite a few coming through say they don't understand the protected area rule. But the protected area rule, if you had a 25-metre penalty, it wouldn't be an over-the-top penalty. And one here, do you want the grand final decided by a 50-metre penalty? Well, if a bloke encroaches on the area and stops a guy from playing on to kick the goal that can win the game, then why wouldn't you just say, well, it's 50, and he kicks the goal to win the game from the 50 because he wasn't given the right to play on because you encroached in the area? I mean, the rules are the rules. So, yeah, well, we can argue about this all day. It's going to be funny if it does happen in the grand final. And, the Buckenara Steins situation, it was 50. So read the rule book, know the rules, and if you're playing in the grand final and you get it wrong and you run into the protected area because you weren't following a man and you didn't understand the rule properly, then it's your fault. It's happened before. The Buckenara Steins one, a perfect example. Mark in WA, welcome to you, Mark.
Yeah, hi, Dwayne. I think Liam Baker would be a really good captain for Richmond. I like the age of the 23, 24-year-old, and if not him, maybe Jack Graham. Nick Floston's 28, so I think they should just go a little bit younger, especially while Trent and Dylan Grimes and Jack Rewald are still around.
I don't mind an older captain if he's a standout. So I don't mind rewarding a guy that's been around a long, long time for that reason. Mark, I think it's a great idea. But if it's, a toss of the coin, well, if Dustin Martin was 28 and he wanted the captaincy right now, I'd be giving it to him. So that's a no-brainer. And I think that is where we're at with Richmond. If Dustin Martin wants it, I think it's a no-brainer that he gets it. But Neil Barn will join us after 2 o'clock to talk more about it. Appreciate your call. Peter in Essendon, thanks for holding for a while. Welcome to you, Peter.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. Now I'm all for the what do you call it? Sorry, Dwayne, I've gone. Anyway, the 50. Oh, sorry, Dwayne, I'll ring you back. I've just got someone here.
Pete.
Sorry, Dwayne.
All good. No, if you've got something more important, I get it. You have been on hold for a while, so I should have got to you quicker. Lou in Bundoora on the line. Welcome to you, Lou.
Dwayne, hello, mate.
Yeah, good.
So I've got a question for you. So if a player gets suspended during the season and he wins his best and fairest at his club, does that still count?
Yes.
So what about PFA? So if they get suspended, and do they still count for PFA and coaches?
Sorry, PFA?
Yeah, players. Is there a players' association?
Yeah, the MVP is the MVP. There's a players' association award as well. Yes, and you can be suspended for 10 weeks and still win your own best and fairest, Lou.
Correct. So the coaches' award, if they're suspended, they win that as well?
Yes.
So why the Brownlow should be the same? So all awards should be on the same playing field.
Why?
Even.
Do we need 5 different awards if they're all the same, Lou? It's like having 5 clocks in your hand. It's like having 5 clocks in your kitchen. You really only need one.
Yeah, but I think you should make the coaches award more prestigious than the Brownlow, because let's be honest, the coaches know what they're looking at more than the umpires do.
Yeah, I don't mind that as an idea that the coaches. I think a lot of people do look at the Coaches Association Award as being prestigious, and I think it is gaining more prestige. But the Brownlow is the one still that's got the most prestige. It's traditionally fairest and best. I don't see it changing in a hurry, but it's interesting. It's almost 60-40 in favour of it changing. So I'll bring you the results of that poll very shortly, Lou. Straight back to your calls and your texts for Midday Madness. A couple here. The Tigers have never had co-captains. Hope they never do. It dilutes the importance of the position. Thanks for that. Neil Bowen to join us after 2 o'clock to talk about who might be about to take over as captain. Is it going to be Dustin Martin? We'll have a chat to Neil Bowen about Callan Coleman-Jones and Marbia Chol, etc. Hi, Dwayne. You never read out my texts, and I'm not a Steve Hocking basher, but I believe initially the rule was created to see more scoring, and it hasn't achieved that if you compare the stats with other years. Well, it actually has achieved it this year. So scoring, the stand rule's been in for a year, and scoring went up this year. So don't let anybody tell you it went down. It went up this year. So it's back to where it was, essentially a couple of years ago. So scoring last year was on average, I think it was 76 points on average, and this year it's gone up to 80. So it has gone up this year from 76 to 80. And another one here. The other thing is it's very annoying. This is from Phil in Parkdale as well as scoring hasn't gone up. It's not just about scoring going up. It's about flow. So there's been more flow this year, and scores have gone up this year compared to last year. But I'm agreeing with your last bit, Phil. It is annoying listening to the umpire say stand 50 times in a game. So I think we could turn their mics down and maybe not have as much of that. So I'm agreeing with you on that note. Brad in Perth, you there, Brad?
Dwayne, how are you?
Yeah, good.
Good, buddy. So the stand rule, players have been milking free kicks since Adam was a boy, and this is just another example of them trying to get a cheap 50 or something like that. So the players will milk a free kick wherever they can. But I think overall, most supporters would love it when the rule works in their favour and someone can run past freely and get a handball knowing the guy on the mark can't move, and then hate it when the guy does move. But I would argue that the protected area doesn't work most of the time, again, because most guys are trying to run past and split with their opponent and hope he runs the other side and they get an easy 50. And so that in itself stops the player from playing on, because his own player is trying to milk a free kick or a 50-metre rather than actually trying to get the ball. So they're still, the players have got to take some responsibility for it not working the way that it does, because they're just most of the time trying to exploit a free kick or a 50-metre penalty out of it.
Yeah, look, they could tinker with that. So if you take your man into the protected area, then the guy with the ball's fair game. So you have to not take your man in. They could. What have they adjusted it to that, Brad? So that would stop the guy taking a man in to try and milk a 50.
Well, that's either that or he can't go in at all, and then the guy running past gets the free kick or gets the handball easier, and the rule achieves what it's trying to achieve, which keeps the game flowing. So it all depends what they're trying to achieve by the rule in the first place. But at the moment, it's just the guys trying to split from their partner. You see it time and time. They zig and zag, trying to get the opponent to run the other side, and so they get a cheap 50. And that annoys everybody. So it all depends on what they're trying to achieve by it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that note, Brad, and they could adjust that. A couple coming through on the text, just to clarify this. Last year's games were 16-minute quarters, Dwayne, so scoring went backwards. And longer quarters this year. Last year's games were 16 minutes. You wouldn't expect scoring to go up. You would expect scoring to go up this year compared to last year. The quarters are longer, shorter quarters last year. Scoring's gone up so to all of you that have texted through, so it's the champion data figure that's been scaled up. So the scaled up number, scores per minute, scaled up to equate to the same game time. Last year, scoring 76 points. This year, scoring 80 points. So that's with last year time scaled up. So scoring per minute. So it is taking into account the shorter games last year. So there you go. And one here, wowee, an increase of 4 points. Well, that's from Electric in Wagga. Well, you can go with your wowee, Electric. That's fine. You can wowee me all you like on the text and ridicule it. I'm just saying the scoring has gone up. So if it went down 4 points, you'd be saying it's gone down 4 points again. I'm just telling you the facts from Champion Data that it's gone up, okay? So you can poo-poo it. You can argue with it. That's fine. But don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what the facts are. Tony in Belfield, you there, Tony?
Yeah, g'day, Dwayne. I just want to back up what a caller said yesterday. I didn't get his name, but he had a quiet spoken voice in saying that the narrative that Geelong don't have any A-grade youth is pretty subjective and could be a bit of a furphy because we just haven't been able to see them. And I've been able to watch the few VFL games over the last 2 years that have actually been played, and I think there's quite a lot of talent. They've just got to play them. Because you could say in 2016 that Geelong didn't have any A-quality youth, but the very next year they had a young guy named Tom Stewart who was a 24-year-old, and all of a sudden he skyrocketed to elite. So it's not all about first-year players like Melbourne's got.
So who are they, Tony, do you think?
I think Nathan Kruger they must hang on to, Sam DeConning, and I think Evans is another one. But there's also another guy who's a first-round draft pick who hasn't even managed to play a VFL game yet because of injury. So we don't know what Cooper Stevens might offer in the first round of next year. He might just burst onto the scene and all of a sudden people go, wow, where did he come from? Because I don't think Gary Lyon's done his research too much before he's shot that comment off.
Yeah, it's an interesting call because we haven't seen much of them. So it is hard to make a call on a guy we haven't seen at all. You're right. Cooper Stevens is one of those. We haven't seen him at all. So you can't say he is, and you can't say he's an A-grader because he hasn't played yet. So I'll kind of get Gary on that as well. One here on the text, what were the scoring numbers in 2018 and 2019 from Ron? So in 2019, the average was 80 points, 80.2. This year it's 79.8. So it's gone back to essentially the same as 2019. So 80.2 in 2019. And in 2020, scaled up to equate the time, 25.8. So it hasn't gone up a lot, and it might actually be nothing to do with the stand rule. I'm just telling you what the facts are. You're an AFL mouthpiece, Dwayne. You have zero credibility. So I'm just telling you the numbers. It's not the AFL's numbers either. It's Champion Data's numbers, and it might be nothing to do with the stand rule, but I'm just responding to a caller, a texter that says scoring has gone down. So when I had a texter saying scoring's gone down this year compared to last year, I had to make the point that according to Champion Data, it's gone up. I'm just giving you the facts. Am I an AFL mouthpiece for giving you that fact from Champion Data? Well, it's not from an AFL press release. It's just from Champion. And if I get asked a question, often I go to Champion to try and get an answer. Has scoring gone up or down? So my question to Champion was, I sent a text to Jacob. Hey, Jacob, did scoring go up or down this year, Dwayne? And Jacob sent me back the text. It's gone up this year, a couple of points. Nick in Hoppers Crossing, Peter and Clayton, we're coming to you all. A couple of texts on the way through as well. If you want free flow footy, get rid of Scott. Geelong play the most boring brand of footy. When they chip the ball around, it's boring to watch. Well, it hasn't won a flag, so I suppose that's going to help other clubs not try and replicate it as well. James Sicily at Hawthorn for captain. Thanks for that as well. Sam Doherty, maybe to step down due to his health. Thanks for that. Dwayne, I think Tommy Stewart is the next captain for the Cats. Thanks for that. Nick Tigger Vlosten for the Tigers. Appreciate that. Carlton did have an interim coach, but they sacked him. Andrew, thanks for that as well. And Dwayne, can someone win a Brownlow if they're suspended in the finals? Yes, they can win a Brownlow if they're suspended in the finals. And the straw poll that we had up, the Twitter poll that we had up, should we take the fairest component out of the Brownlow, yes or no? 62% on the SEN Twitter poll saying no, don't take the fairest component out. 38% saying yes, take the fairest component out. Always great to have your company for Midday Madness, and we'll be back to your calls very, very shortly. Neil Baum Also to join us after 2 o'clock, Chris Grant to join us after 2 o'clock, and Sam Edmund with any breaking news after 2 o'clock if something does emerge. But Port Adelaide's General Manager of Football, Chris Davies, has spoken to the media in the last hour about the club's showing against the Dogs in the prelim final. I'm looking forward to hearing this. I'm hearing it as you hear it, so let's go to a large slab of Chris Davies.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't reviewed the game as a coaching group as yet, but I think in the cold hard light of day, there's some obvious parts of the game that we didn't get right. Our work around the ball was abysmal, and our contest work around the ground wasn't at the level that it needs to be. So we were beaten by a really good Western Bulldogs team, but we didn't give an account of ourselves that we're overly proud of.
Is there a review of the process leading up to the final? Are there question marks as to how you approached it?
Oh, well, there'll be question marks on any of it, the whole aspect of it, Rich. I mean, there's no point right now looking and suggesting, and it would be wrong to suggest that one part over another is more important. But clearly, we'll review every part of the performance, whether that is the preparation that we had leading into it, whether it was the way that our guys went about it structurally, the way they went about it from a mindset perspective. But look, there's no hiding from the fact that we were way off of our best. As I say, we were beaten by a much better Western Bulldogs outfit, but we didn't give an account of ourselves, as I say, that we're proud of it all.
Everyone talks about the scar being left when you get a massive final blowout, and then clubs either dealing with it poorly or not dealing with it at all. What's Port Adelaide's approach going to be?
Yeah, well, the challenge with that so far is in how quickly you have to get the players out. So realistically, we've done all of our exit interviews, and the players have left the club. I mean, having sat in all of those interviews, it's fair to suggest that the guys, aren't going to be mortally wounded. But clearly, we're going to have to review this and review it hard, and we're going to have to support both the players and also the coaches through this next period of time in order to start the year next year in a way that gives us another chance to risk the pain of what we're all feeling right now.
Off-field, does it make you rethink where your list strategy is at the moment?
Well, we rethink our list strategy at every point, through the year. We have no doubt that we've got some improvements to make from a list perspective, but that's not to suggest that they're more important than all of the other things that we'll do. We'll review the way that we, as I say, went about our preparation. We'll review the way that we coached on the night. We'll review the way that, as I say, the players approach the game. They're all really important parts of the review process, and to suggest that one right now is more important than the other would be wrong. It's a group review that is going to require everyone to take their own portion of responsibility for it, including myself.
Chris, externally there's a lot of questions about Ken Ingley. He's on contract for 2 years. Where's that stand internally?
Well, as you say, I mean, I think some context needs to be put around where we're actually at right now. Clearly our performance on the weekend was not where we wanted. That's not just on Ken. That's all of us have responsibility there, as I say, myself included. We've now put ourselves in a position 2 years in a row where we're there to compete. Now that's a first step, but clearly we've got another step to go. All of our people will take the right responsibility for that, including Ken.
Ken does seem to be topping that black card. Is that A, unfair, and B, is this more on the players, that result?
No. This is a joint responsibility. Ken, is absolutely the type of person that puts his hand up in these situations. But as am I. We all have responsibility for this. Clearly, the senior coach in any club is the person who bears the brunt of this, and I don't think Ken would expect any different. But in the cold, hard light of day, we do need to sit back and work out, okay, well, what has got us to this point where we're now finished third 2 years in a row? It's not what we want. We want to be better, and we're going to have to sift through our program right now and say, okay, well, what is it that's got us to third, and what is it that we're going to need to do to get up to first? Because that's ultimately, the area that we want to end up at.
Chris, is there a message for the supporters that sort of pre-game stand there with their scarves and sing "Never Tear Us Apart" and then jump online and really tear the club apart? I mean, is there any hope that you can give for them?
Oh well, look, I think, Jodie, ultimately that. Right now, we're not hiding from the fact that Saturday night was a really disappointing game for everyone. And, I'm sure you know full well that the people who are involved are the ones who hurt the most. We have gone through, as I say, 2 days' worth of exit interviews where our players are hurting, our coaches are hurting. From my perspective, it's not nice to end a year in the way that we did. But I think there should be some optimism on our young players getting better. And we should be approaching 2022 with the same expectations that we had this year. But ultimately what we do know is we're in a position right now where no one will believe that until we get back to another preliminary final and get the job done. So again, no hiding from that. That's just our reality from here. And I know that we've got both a coaching and playing group who are willing to take that on.
Port Adelaide's General Manager of Football, Chris Davies, at a press conference earlier today explaining a few things about their poor performance against the Dogs. Not a lot that enlightens us as to what specifically went wrong and why they didn't tag a couple of guys, etc., but at least expressed the disappointment of it all. Back to your calls. 1300 736 736 is the number. The open line for Werribee Kia, the My22 Stonic, is in stock. Nick in Hoppers Crossing. Welcome to you, Nick.
Hi, Dwayne. Good to talk to you. How you going? Good?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I've got 3 points very, very quickly. About the captains. For Carlton, I think there shouldn't be any co-captains anymore. Maybe just leave it as one, maybe Cripps, or have someone like Sam Walsh or Withering or someone new coach, new captain, or if they're going to keep the same area, just have one captain. Also about the Brownlow, my preference would be just leave it as it is. If you do change it, just call the Charles Brownlow Award, and maybe the player that's suspended, he doesn't get any votes. Just tinker it around that way, and that's all. That's all I would do with that. But my preference would be to keep it as it is. And my third point is, when are we going to get, maybe if it's possible, Ron Barassi on the show, maybe if it's possible, have a bit of a chat with the Giant Melbourne person.
Yeah, we could have a chat to Barras. I think a few shows have put in a request to talk to Barras, so I'm not sure how his health is. So that could be a factor as well, but I'm not sure about why he hasn't been on this station, Nick, or hasn't done a lot of interviews, but I'll try and make some inquiries, Nick. We do put in requests. I requested to have a chat to Chris Davies direct on the show today. That's why we ended up having to take the press conference rather than talk to him direct. A couple coming through, giving him a whack for what we just heard. That was only a slab of the press conference, so maybe a bit of that taken out of the overall context. But quite a few still pretty disappointed with Port's performance. One here on the text, at least he didn't say that they had the flu. So thanks for that. And just a point on the scoring, and that is, it hasn't gone up by 5 goals a game, but people want to, whack things left, right and centre. And no one barracks for the AFL, so no one's ever going to say the AFL's got it right. But my point is, and I think the point, and quite a few coming through saying, of course scoring's going up because we're playing an extra 10 minutes. So a few people weren't listening to the discussion. They are corrected scores for time played. So last year's shorter quarters scaled up. But the point here from Gary on the text is probably my point. Dwayne, scoring trend was going down, year after year after year. 89 points in 2017, then down from 89 to 83, then down to 80, and then down to 76 last year. So now it's got back to 80. Does that mean the slide's been arrested? And that's the point. Scoring's been going down, and down. And we don't want it to keep going down. So an arrested slide and a jump by 4 points to take it back to where it was 2 years ago is not such a bad thing, is it? It might be nothing to do with the stand rule whatsoever. It might be nothing to do with any of the rules that have been brought in. But the fact is that the slide's been arrested. It's got to be a good thing. Jez in Carrum Downs before some news. Welcome to you, Jez.
G'day, mate. How you going?
Good.
Just 2 things. One with scoring. Just need to put it through the big sticks more often. I think that's the only way to fix it. And Collingwood's coaching appointments. What are your thoughts on that? Are you optimistic as I am as a Pies fan?
Very optimistic. But I'm a little biased. I mean, I've worked a few times with Justin Lepage. I think he's a class act overall. I like his thinking, the way he thinks about it. Now, he's a defensive-minded guy, but I think he's learned a lot from his one stint as an AFL coach. So you're always better second time around. You've learned a lot from your mistakes, Jess.
Yes. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. I can't wait to see Collingwood in, round one of the pre-season comp next year, and that's something that I think all fans of Collingwood feel right now. Take a break. Neil Baum to join us after 2 o'clock to talk everything Tigers, and Chris Grant also. Thanks again for joining me for Midday Madness. You can jump on the line and we'll get you to where still. Chris Grant's a couple of minutes away, so we'll head to the Western Bulldogs head of football very shortly over in the West. He's been announced as one of the Cup presenters, or the Cup presenter, if the Western Bulldogs win the Cup. So we'll have a chat to Chris Grant very shortly. Neil Baum to join us a little bit later on as well. Plenty to get to Barmy with on the captaincy issue, given Trent Cotchin has announced today, or announced in the last couple of days, that he is going to hand over the captaincy, keep playing on, but hand over the captaincy to one of the other Tigers. Be interesting to see whether Barmy thinks it's a dual captain's idea is a good or bad idea, and whether Dustin Martin, if he wants it, gets it. So Barmy, a little bit later on, find out about Callum Coleman-Jones with Barmy as well, and Marbia Cho, what they are doing, and whether there is a little bit of extra interest to try and nail down Daniel Talia and Quentin Narkle. So a heap to get to when it comes to Barmy later on in the program. We've also got a six-pack of Brewmanity to give away. Brewmanity's Mouth of the South beer, thanks to Brewmanity Beer Company. Brewmanity, part of David Nietzsche's brewing stable, and we had him on the program yesterday, so he's left a couple of extra six-packs of Brewmanity's Mouth of the South beer for us to give away, and we'll give away a six-pack of that later in the program as well before we hand over to Bob and Andy. But Chris Grant's on the line as we speak, the Western Bulldogs head of football and Cup presenter for the 2021 Grand Final Premiership Cup if his Dogs end up winning. Congratulations, firstly, to you, Granny, and thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks, Dwayne. Thanks very much for having me on. It's interesting times, isn't it? In my current role, I would never have thought that I'd have the opportunity of actually performing two roles in the big one on Saturday week. But I'm absolutely thrilled, and also doing it with Gary. Obviously, only one of us is going to get the opportunity, but doing it with Gary is tremendous as well. He was a fine leader of Melbourne, and someone I looked up to enormously as I was coming through as a young player. So that's a nice sort of tie-in personally for me as well.
So you captained the club. You're a three-time All-Australian. You're the game's record holder until Jono took over. So for those people who don't know, Chris Grant, 341 games, 554 goals. It's been a long journey you've had with the football club. Now the head of football. You've seen a couple of changes and a bit of evolution in that time. Chris, can I ask you what is special about the chemistry they've currently got under Luke Beveridge?
Yeah, the club's changed enormously over recent times, and probably, Dwayne, sort of going back to sort of, the 13, sort of 14, particularly the end of the 14 period, where there's some significant changes made around the club, and obviously Luke was a big part of that acquisition at the time. My role on the board was not a full-time executive position, but during that period there was enormous change made, and then since then, the whole place has sort of really been turned on its head as far as the approach to high performance and the way we go about supporting and developing and educating our people both on and off the field. And Luke's obviously been a key driver of that, as have others. And it's just incredibly pleasing to see our club. I mean, 2016 seems like a long time ago, to be honest. But during that period of time, even though we've had some difficult sort of and not ideal performances off and on field during that period post 2016, the re-establishment of the team on field again to get to the point where they're competing in a grand final again has been nothing short of astonishing. So I'm not surprised though, knowing the people I get to work with on a daily basis. It's a really exciting period for the club, no doubt.
Was there times where you were worried that the club would never become a big fish, Chris? And I'm talking about big fish now because you might be about to win your second flag in a pretty short space of time, which puts you in big fish territory.
Yeah, well, look, no doubt. I think we would all reflect back to that period with whether it was a weight or certainly an historical weight. Leading up to that significant change during 15 and 16, there was the weight of almost as a dream, more so than as a that we're going to be able to. I think we're always sort of confident, high performance wise, that we're heading in the right direction, but you just don't know, what's in front of you until you actually achieve it. And, that in itself has been, a game changer for us, probably, not only for the confidence around the place, but also to rewrite history and to rewrite our story. But it's also provided probably an emotional release, if you like, that this is possible and we can match it. And that's certainly set us on that path since then. So, going into another grand final in such a short amount of time, I think is testament to that.
So how big is it for you now personally, given that you captain the club and were a great of the club, trying to do as much as you could possibly do as a leader of the club on field? And you did a brilliant job. You just couldn't get the job done premiership-wise. But now all of a sudden, as a head of football, you still get a chance to hold the reins in a way, to direct it in a manner that, with a number of other people, it heads in a direction that you might be able to win a flag. How big is this year for you, knowing that you've been able to do that kind of stuff as well again?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Dwayne. Look, no doubt as a player, the end game is to be involved in a successful team on field, and you want to be part of premierships, as you alluded to. We got close a few times, weren't able to sort of make it to the big dance during my playing career. But it wasn't for lack of effort and trying from a lot of people, both in the playing group but also off the field as well. We just couldn't get there. And, now in the role that I'm in, it feels like it's similar. It's different clearly because you're not actually playing the game, but sort of being sort of close to the action and having a role to play in the direction of the team and the decisions along the way to hopefully participate in a game like Saturday week. It's satisfying, just in a different way. It's in probably a layer of it, Dwayne, is getting to see the people that you've hoped that you've been able to sort of shape and guide with the key decision makers around the club. Devo, obviously, Meet Baines now, Gary Kent previously, and working closely with them to help the club achieve that, and then seeing the enjoyment and the satisfaction of the people that you have got a daily management responsibility for. It's just pleasing in a different way. Not having experiences as a player, I can't fully understand and appreciate what that feels like. But in this role, it's hopefully as close as I'll ever get to that.
Was Bailey Smith always going to be this good, or has your development system had something to do with it?
Well, we're always confident. I think the whole industry, all the other clubs would have seen Bailey as a young player coming through, and the talent that he possessed, and the physical nature of how he played the game and his running ability. That was always there. But you'd also like to think that once you get the players into the place, including Bailey, that the way that Bevo coaches, the way that we prepare them as athletes, goes obviously the extra layer, or adds the extra layer to their ability to play the game and to produce the performances that they are able to produce on game day. So it's always a combination. But he's a super player, and I think one of the things that the industry's becoming very aware of externally, because clubs are aware of what type of personality he was. He's just such a genuine young man, and his family, for that matter, are too. That his blending, his playing, and the way he plays a game with just this beautiful nature that he's got as part of his DNA, and that's just such a pleasure to see on a daily basis. He's so giving of his time. Obviously, he's a popular young man, but he's also very giving of his time, particularly with young people and kids when they make approaches to him. So, that's really nice to see as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because your last, outside of Jamari Ugle-Hagan, who's in his first season, when you look at Cody Waitman, Aaron Norton, Bailey Smith, it looks like you've got an environment that allows, and they were early picks, but they were all your first pick, even though they weren't first pick in the draft, an environment that does get the best out of your recruits at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think so. We'd like to think so. I think all clubs have the aim as part of their strategy for that to be the case, that you're able to set an environment and a culture that provides an opportunity for your people to thrive, and whether that's a player or whether that's someone pursuing their professional career in an off-field capacity, you really hope that the environment and culture stimulates their thinking, but also really guides and shapes the way that you want them to behave and grow, but also you want them to have their own natural flair, and you don't want to take that away from them. So it's always a really delicate balance. If you would ask that question to 7, 8 other clubs, we're all after that as the end game. But those players, they're super talented players to start with, and hopefully we've been able to shape and guide them a little bit along the way to produce the performances that they are.
Yeah, a few other clubs aren't getting quite the result, but we'll wait and see whether a few of those do provide that result in time to come. Your game style as well, Chris, it's a little different. Your ball movement has been speculated on. Can you win a flag with it? And it seems as if Bevo's faith in it, and your faith in it too. Do you discuss what kind of game style you're going to go with, or is that all Bevo?
No, I think look, Bevo obviously is a key driver of that, but he's so sort of open and transparent with being able to sort of work through that as a group together, because he's very open in he doesn't have the answers for everything, but he really does engage and lean on everyone for thought, and that's sort of part of the culture and environment you want as well. But I think also too, what's happened, Wayne, is over the probably from sort of 17 onwards, where we unfortunately lost a few of the more experienced players at the end of 17 and into 18. That sort of rebuilding process has been not an easy process, but also just the reality of having a young team not being able to perform consistently, and probably just the physical nature of the game had been a difficult hurdle at times for some. But what we are probably now experiencing is that they're maturing, they're older now, they're heading towards their mid-20s as a group. There's a sprinkling of young players there, but only a couple of older players to sort of help guide them as well, to support them. But the majority of the group are just maturing, and that's allowing probably both sides of the game to be played. That is, using the ball proactively and using their skill, but also being able to weather the storm in the contest as well. And Bevo's been able to blend those very well, particularly over this year.
Will the tough lead-in work in your favour now you've got an extra week off?
Well, time will tell. We don't really know yet. I think, certainly logistically off-field, being able to prepare has made it a lot easier. But that, the most important question is, how do the players feel about that? We really won't know until we get to Saturday week and how they perform. We hope that they're able to sort of hold on to the momentum. It'll certainly, in regards to our playing group, we've got a few boys who obviously hadn't played the week before. That'll certainly give them every opportunity now of being ready and primed, ready to go. And I'm sure Melbourne feel the same. Their obviously path is a little bit different than ours, but they'll have some sore boys as well that'll give them the opportunity to prepare over a 2-week period as well. So it's going to be interesting. I'll tell you at about what will it be, about 8 p.m. Perth time, how we've gone.
Quick hypothetical then, if you had the choice of not having a week off and just going straight into the grand final this Saturday, or having the week off to recover from the tough month, which would you choose?
I think it depends on what position they're in. I mean, our path has just been very different. We've had to come through the elimination final in the first week to make it. So, after a tough end of the season and 3 sort of big games and on the road. So, in that sense, it's probably been, helpful just to be able to sort of regather the troops for one more go. But then, Melbourne has a different path, and had, less games leading in. So, but as I say, you just don't know. If you had said sort of 18 months ago when the pandemic sort of started to impact the industry, that we'd be flying on days of games and in and out on the day, and you would have thought that that just wasn't doable. But the players got through well across the competition, and I think that's a little bit of what you think the preference would be, and you're trying to have a bit of a feel for what you would like the players to have in the lead up to the game to prepare them to play as well as they can. But that's kind of been thrown on its head a little bit, to be honest, over the last 18 months. And players have been able to adapt to any situation. And this situation for us leading in with 2 weeks is just one of those. But we just sort of hope that, when the ball bounces on Saturday evening, that they're ready to go.
And you'll expect Waitman, Keith and Vandermeer to all be available for selection by the time we get to next Thursday?
Yeah, we're very confident, Dwayne, that all three will be selectable. So obviously still a week of solid training before we sort of taper into the game to really know where they're at, to test them fully. But at this point, we're really pleased with how they're tracking.
And who would you bring in, if I could ask you that? I know you won't give me the answer, but it's going to be a tough selection process.
It is.
Keith Waitman's guaranteed, isn't he?
Sorry, what's that, Dwayne?
Waitman and Keith are guaranteed?
Well, no one's guaranteed, mate, based on how the team's performed, because the boys that have come in have done a stellar job. Obviously, Keithy has been a really important player for us this year. So, if he's fit, we'd like to think that he comes in. But if, in the other positions, particularly in that sort of forward line, there's just a depth there in that position. So, yeah, it's going to be very tough, as we've seen that throughout history, particularly if you've got a fit playing group, like we hope to be able to have by then, and seems like Melbourne will be the same. It's going to be very difficult for both teams to only choose 23, as it is these days, to fill the spots. There's going to be excitement, and there's going to be some really hard decisions and heartbreak along the way too, but that's what we're in it for, and hopefully we choose the right 23 to take us in.
Be a lovely moment to hand over that cup, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Yeah, no doubt. Sort of dare to dream a little bit about that. We've got obviously a big game in between before anything, before that opportunity presents itself. Gary will feel the same. It'll be a nervous time for both of us, obviously, before the game, with the ceremony before the game and bringing the cup out together and placing it before the national anthem. That's going to be exciting for both of us. It'll be interesting to see who holds onto the cup the longest as we put it down. Gary will be pretty keen to hold on to it, I reckon.
Be a nice moment, though. I can't wait for it. Chris, great to have you on the program. I really appreciate you taking some time to have a chat to me, and good luck.
Okay, thanks, mate.
Chris Grant, Western Bulldogs Head of Football and Cup presenter for the 2021 Grand Final. Premier, if that premier is his Dogs.
Can be credited with the shift of the whole football club, along with the coach, Damien Hardwick. Arguably maybe the greatest captain of Richmond of all time, probably just behind Captain Blood, Jack Dyer, and just did everything right. And we don't lose him as a player. He's going to play on next year, obviously, which is super exciting. But when the door opens for someone else to come in and fill what is really big shoes.
Jack Riewoldt on Trent Cotchin's career, just behind Captain Blood. Might be a bit harsh. He's number one by games captained, and he's handing over the captaincy reins. Neil Barnes has been good enough to join us, Richmond Senior Club Advisor. Welcome to you, Barmy. Great to have you on the program again.
It's a bit hard to beat Captain Blood, though, isn't it? Yeah, well.
It is a bit hard, but
I'm sure that's not worrying him.
There's not a lot of three-time premiership captains around, though, Barmy.
Oh, no, and captain is one of the important jobs at the club, and if you get it right, well, you've probably got a chance of winning, but I'm sure that's not what Trent's thinking about. I think he was just doing his job, doing the best he could to help his mates play as well as they could, and fortunately he's been been in a really important time the last 4 or 5 years where he's been, you know, his leadership has been really quite substantial and shown our other guys the way, and we've been lucky enough to get some really good outcomes. So he should be very proud of what he's done. There's no doubt about that.
So who's your next one?
Oh, we'll take plenty of time to look at that. There's quite a few who would put their hand up if you're serious about it, and then you've got to decide what you want out of your captain. Do you want the on-field leadership? Do you want the off-field leadership? Every player's got their part to play within the leadership within the club, because that's what it's all about. It's all about looking after each other and buying in for each other. But we'll have a look at it. We'll probably let the players have a bit of a say. It depends a bit on what the coach feels as well. So we've got plenty of time to look at it. It's really, and in Trent's case, he could probably just said nothing and we would have just gone on with him. But he's really saying, look, I just want to get the most out of the rest of my playing career, and you're going to need another captain at some stage. So let's have a look at it now.
So what did specifically Trent bring that you would want the new captain to bring as well?
Oh, he's just got a natural ability to care about the bloke next to him and actually play natural team footy. Always commits himself, always puts his head over the ball, always does his best, always trains hard, does all of that stuff. And within it, he's still human as well. He still has his human frailty, and he's not frightened of that at all. So, I mean, he's really, I think he said to the players 4 or 5 years ago, I'm just going to be myself, and you blokes can follow me. And I think that's a very important part of it, because it's all about individuals doing their best to make sure that the team does as well as they can. And we have had a pretty good couple of years under his leadership.
And impact-wise, I mean, you probably would have won 3 premierships if he didn't captain the team. But has that been part of the reasoning? When you look back in time, is naming him captain going to be one of those turning points where you think, well, gee, I'm glad we got that right, because that could have been something, if we got it wrong, might have led us down a different path?
Oh, it's always very hard to judge all that sort of stuff, but there's no doubt that he's been terrific leader for his teammates. He's shown them the way. He's helped people when he's needed to help them. So clearly, it was an important part of what we did. But I mean, if someone else had been captain, he still would have behaved the same way and behaved like a leader and a captain anyway, I would think. So it's always hard to make those judgments.
Do you think Dustin Martin would like it?
I don't think he would be opposed to it, but it's really just interesting. I mean, in the good old days, you say the best player's got to be the captain, but that's not necessarily what we do nowadays. It's the best captain is the captain, and we'll have a look at that and see what it means. But certainly there's no doubt that Dusty's going to play a very big part in whatever happens over the next few years here.
What's your process? If he wants it, do you say, okay, well, you can have it, or does he have to have a player vote? How does that work?
Oh, we haven't even decided all that yet. We're looking at it going, well, we've got plenty of time to look at this. We'll see who's available, what we really think we want, talk about it within our leadership programs. And fortunately got plenty of time to have a bit of a think about it. So, no, there's no simple set way of doing it as yet, no.
Are you against joint captains, or do you think that could work as well?
I'm not totally against it, but I think if you're going to make a decision, you should make a decision. But it depends on what's there. There could be 2 or 3 that are genuinely equal. So in that case, you would have to consider it. But I think more than likely you'd just have the one captain, I would think.
Do you need the captain named pretty early in pre-season, or can you leave it until pretty late before, the actual season starts?
Oh, yeah, I think we can leave it as long as we like, because, I mean, as I said before, every player's got their responsibility within the team in terms of leadership and what they do and how they behave and what they stand for, so it really won't matter that much. So there's no rush, I don't think. There's no time limit on it. Obviously, we'll need one by the time we play our first game, but no, we haven't really thought about the timing yet.
Got a Callum Coleman-Jones update for us?
We're keen for him to stay. We thought we gave him enough opportunities last year to show that he's going to play for us. But we've got to recognise what the system is. The system says that they've got the right to make some decisions, and other clubs will be very keen to get a hold of him. And who knows what'll happen? Whatever will happen will happen. As I said, we'd be keen for him to stay, but we'll just have to see what happens.
So he hasn't given you a decision yet. Are you expecting that today or in the next 24 hours?
I think it'd be reasonably soon. I certainly haven't heard, no. I'm hoping that he stays, but who knows what'll happen. But yeah, I think we'd know reasonably soon.
Can we believe what gets written in the press, or What reporters like Sam Edmund tell us 4 years and $450 a year has been offered. Is that the ballpark?
If he's getting that, I'm going with him. Look, I mean, it's not fair to even talk about all that sort of stuff. But you're never quite sure what's going on in the background. But but that's why we have to respect his decision. He needs to make a decision. And what he's going to have to decide is he going to get enough opportunities with us? Would he get more opportunities somewhere else? What's he going to be paid? Is he looking short term? Is he looking long term? They're all the things that he'll take into account. I mean, we'll obviously be telling him the story from Richmond's point of view, but he'll be thinking of the story from a slightly more selfish point of view, from his own point of view, obviously. But I mean, we're keen for him to stay, and we think we've looked after him, and we'd like to see him have another year with us at least. But we'll just see what happens. Well, yeah, we're not going to shoot him if he doesn't, obviously, but because we've still got other opportunities. But we're hoping he stays.
And I don't expect you to tell me how much he's been offered, but for money-wise, what about years? Has he been offered for by you guys?
Pretty sure not, but I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. I haven't. I probably should know, but I don't know.
Marbio, how's that deal looking? Is he still a chance to stay?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think we're keen for that to happen as well. But I mean, he's in the same position where he will say, "Well, when am I going to get enough opportunities? Has someone else offered me more opportunities?" And he needs to, make a kind of a rational, objective judgment of that. And whatever happens there will happen there as well. I mean, he's been around long enough for us to have perhaps thought that he should have had more opportunities. But he's played some good footy with us, but not probably quite as much as we'd like. But we'll be happy for him to stay as well. But I mean, if they don't, well, you have to move on. That's just the way it is. You've got to accept that that's part of the game.
And you expect Callum Coleman-Jones in the next 24 hours or even sooner to let you know? When will Marbiot let you know?
Again, I should know, but I'm not absolutely sure of that either. It depends on what he's been offered, and I'm not quite as close to that as I should be.
Yeah,
I'll go and talk to Blair in a minute, and I'll find out.
Would they have offered him for? Is that the kind of?
So, no.
Okay,
I would doubt it, but honestly, I don't know. It's not fair for me to say. No.
Yeah, is 4 getting a bit much now for players in general? Do you think? What are you? Where are you at with your thoughts on long-term deals?
Oh, you have to be a very, very good player to get a long-term deal, I would have thought.
Did Adelaide offer you a long-term deal? This is the first time you've spoken since. Well, where'd you going?
Well, when you said before, can you believe what you read in the press? Well, it was reported in the press that I'd accepted it, that I hadn't even spoken to them at that stage at all, hadn't even had a conversation with them. So I don't know where that came from. It made it look like I'd backed off something that I'd agreed to, but I hadn't agreed to it. They were, it was very interesting, and I was really keen to talk to them. I was very flattered by what they thought. But in the end, I had a commitment already had a commitment with Richmond that I felt I needed to live up to, and they wanted me to, so I decided that that's what I should do. And now that it's over with, whilst I don't disrespect what Adelaide were talking about, I'm really pleased that I'm staying with the Tigers.
Was it just a phone call to have a chat, or did you actually have a sit down with them and give it some serious thought?
Oh, no, all on the phone, obviously. I know I had a serious chat with them, and I did take it seriously, and it was, it was quite flattering and interesting and quite exciting in its own way. But in the end, I already had a commitment to Richmond, even though I think if I'd have said I need to go back to Adelaide for all these reasons, they probably would have let me. I felt that I had a commitment to Richmond, and I thought, and they were very keen for me to stay, so I thought I should honour that.
You'd get a few of those calls, though, wouldn't you, from clubs? There'd be plenty of clubs that would want Neil Baum. Do you get many of them?
No, they know that I'm 69 years old, mate. Why would they want me?
Because you're the guru.
I'm ready to play again, I think.
Are you Richmond for life, Barmy? Is that you now? Are you enjoying it that much that, will there be roles within the organisation for you to sort of morph into whatever's needed from Neil Baum?
Oh, look, I'm not really thinking that far ahead, but I'm certainly a Richmond man for life anyway, but that doesn't mean I'll stay here forever, but we'll see how we go. But I'm really excited. The response from the Richmond people has been outstanding, so I'm really pleased that I'm staying.
And the fighting of the cliff, we're talking about Geelong, whether they'll fall off it. Where are the Tigers at?
Oh, no, I'm really confident they will be very strong next year. I've got little doubt. They're in a good place. The coaches are in a good place. They're looking at it and judging our year for the right reasons and the right way. We'll be better off next year. We'll have, unless we have as many injuries as we had again, but I think we'll be in a pretty good spot, yeah.
Is Daniel Talia on your radar?
Oh, there's quite a few blokes we're looking at, and he's certainly one we're considering, but no, radar is probably not fair. Small R radar, I'd say.
Quentin Narkle in it?
Not that I'm aware of, no. No, okay. But that doesn't mean he's not. But no, because lots of things do happen at this stage where sometimes you don't hear it all until, and people tend to keep things a little bit quieter because they don't want them to be discussed at the level that, like with you and I are discussing it, because it makes it easier for things to happen. So no, I don't think so. But we're not in a position to be able to do very much because we haven't got much room to move in terms of salary cap, etc. So don't think we'll be that aggressive.
Are you a chance to lose Adam Kingsley?
Oh, well, if someone appointed him as their senior coach, you would lose him because he's a damn good coach and he's certainly worth considering. But I'm not thinking that we are at this stage, but nothing's ever totally out of the question. So
you don't sort of keep across any discussions that your assistants might have with other clubs and how close they are maybe to getting it? Or did that get disclosed?
Reasonably, but no, you try not to because there's a lot of that going on and you've got to let that sort of take its own course. You don't want to be too sort of worried about that sort of stuff. Well, what we want to do is encourage our people to improve their lives and do all the things they want to do. So we don't want to be too negative about it. But we'll see what happens, eh?
Can you see him coaching an AFL club, if not next year, at some stage down the track?
Oh, he's certainly got the capacity to. He knows the game well. He presents really well. The players like him. So I'd be surprised if he weren't considered. But you never know. They're pretty hard to get. There's not many of those jobs around, No,
it's not. Hey, before I let you go, who wins the grand final?
Oh, I thought Geelong and Port would have won last week, so I'm not the one to ask. And I think they both played extremely well and should be so proud of the way they played. And to be fair, when I saw Melbourne play, I thought, they'll win the grand final for sure. They played so well. But then Bulldogs played very, very similarly. So you get the feeling it's going to be a damn good game. If they can both play up to the way they played last weekend, it'll be a very, very good game. I get the feeling Melbourne just might be a little bit more settled, but who knows? Who knows? They're both very good. They should be proud of themselves.
And you got a bit of love there, obviously.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, no. It's I was trying to be objective and rather than saying who I wanted to win.
Barmy, always great to have a chat to you. Every time we get you on, there's a heap of people on the text saying we should have you as a regular. You're a champion. Love listening to Barmy. They all come through.
Before. You know that.
Yeah, that's right. This used to be your spot. In fact, I think you used to own this hour, so I appreciate you lending it to me for a while.
Good on you, mate. Nice talking to you.
And every time we get you on, someone reminds me of 84. So thanks to that texter as well. Neil Baum, Richmond Senior Club Advisor, joining us for Hyundai High Performance Forklifts, the driver's choice. So visit your local independent dealer at Trinity Hyundai Forklifts or Google Hyundai Forklifts. If you drop into Trinity Hyundai Forklifts, make sure you tell them we sent you. Great to have your company on Dwayne's World for Kogan Mobile.